Would you like to learn how a woman went from being a designer to owning a successful international visual communication and design firm? Well, we're going to find out today thanks to my guest, Sari Gabbay, coming to us all the way from Toronto. Sari, thank you so much for being on this show today.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it.
I am as well. Well, Sari, you were a designer when you started off your career, and now you have a visual communication and design firm. You have an office in Toronto and you have an office in LA. So how did you go about from being just a designer to managing two offices and helping tons of clients in both countries?
That's a good question. It's a question I'm asked very often. The process for me, it's funny how it started because I always wanted to be creative and I always wanted to be a designer. And when you start a business, you don't really know how many things you really have to do. So for the first few years, I wore every single hat. And then as the business grew, I realized that there's so much more to helping a business visually than just being a designer. So slowly I started bringing on more people and more support, and before I knew it, the company grew and we found positions for marketing, we found positions for design, we found positions for web, for graphics, for consulting. And I've always wanted to be in the West Coast, and that was a dream of mine. So as soon as I saw the opportunity, I jumped on it, and it kind of just happened, one of those wonderful things.
Well, that's a really great story. And before we continue, I just wanted to mention the fact that Sari is having a few difficulties with her Skype connection. We've tried this a few times. So during the interview, either I'm going to have to cut and have her start over, or we'll continue and, she'll have to turn on and off her screen. But I just wanted to mention that up front. So you were explaining how your company grew. I wanted to know, did you start off on your own at first and then you started adding all of these people? Did you go out and find financing to help you grow, or did it just grow organically as you were growing your revenues? You were able to add more people and get an office and then, of course, move to the U.S. How did it work for you, or did you use your savings?
Well, I was really young when I started. I actually started right out of school. So I was 24 and I just began, I guess, freelancing.
Okay.
And, I didn't have savings. I had support from my family being that young and just out of university. And I was able to, grow as the company, the clients came, and that's kind of how I did it. So the more clients I had, the more I grew my company, and it was just kind of that flow that just ended up happening, and I moved with, and it was great. Yeah. That's
okay.
Kind of.
So that's really great. And the other thing as well that you just said that you started at a very young age. It's amazing that you got that support from your parents, that they didn't say, well, we spent all this money on your university, why don't you get a job and work in an office? So it's really great that they were supportive in allowing you to become the entrepreneur that you are today.
Yes. They knew my personality, so they knew that I needed to be a leader and I needed to sort of take on that role. So that being said, that was great, and it just, I was able to create my own path, and I'm very grateful for that.
That's really great, because not all parents would necessarily want that for their kids. Were your parents entrepreneurs themselves?
Well, it's funny because I was living with my grandparents, and my grandfather was a big entrepreneur, and my mom would work jobs, and my dad actually doesn't live here. He lives in Israel. So I had a lot of support from my grandparents, who are kind of like my second parents.
Okay. So it does definitely help if your grandfather was an entrepreneur himself. He understands that entrepreneurial bug, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed.